Wonderhussy here, just tooling around the Alvord desert in southeastern Oregon. I came up here because, well, it's been recommended to me by many people over the years as being an exceptionally desolate and awe-inspiring place. And let me tell you something, it is. I've only been here about a little over 24 hours and I've already seen so many crazy things that my mind is blown. But the one thing that I haven't done yet, and kind of the main thing I came here to do, is camp out on the dry lake bed. And my plan was to do just that tonight, but I wasn't banking on the weather. This crazy thunderstorm just rolled in and like blasted thunder and lightning and pelted my car with rain. And well, if you know anything about dry lake beds, it's really not advisable to drive out on them when they're wet, because they kind of tend to turn back into lakes or big mucky muddy bogs, and then your car gets stuck. Ugh. It's happened to me before. It's a long story, but I got some pretty solid intel on this lake bed from my friend here at the hot springs, and he said if you take the access road out onto the lake bed, just stay to the right, stay in the light colored parts, and you should be okay. And actually, as I'm driving along right now, I see there is a car parked out there, so I guess I'll be all right to drive out there. Yikes. Okay, here's the turnoff. This is the access road that goes out onto the playa. And, well, it looks like there's people camped out here, so I guess if I hug the edge, I should be okay. But, just in case, better go into four-wheel drive. Okay, yikes. It feels pretty solid. I mean, I'm looking at the tracks I'm leaving behind me, and they're not, like, super deep or anything, but gosh. This is a trip, man. This is a huge dry lake bed. And I've been on some big dry lake beds, but this, I don't know, there's something about this one that's just like exceptional. I'm just gonna try to go far enough away from everybody where, you know, I can have my privacy, not bother anyone. Holy cow, this is friggin' amazing! And the best thing is, there's actually a rainbow over here. Little tiny rainbow! Hello, rainbow! And this playa is hard packed. You know, it'd take more than a few sprinkles, I guess, to turn this into a lake. Boy, I guess I could just set up camp anywhere I wanted to. Well, I don't really like the neighborhood here. But, you know, the traffic's really bad over here. And, well, the schools are no good in this part of town. Where to go? I mean, look at this friggin' lake bed, especially because I guess it just rained. It's kind of shiny even where the sun's hitting it. It almost looks like linoleum. Okay, I made my dinner. I set up my camp. And I'm ready to drink a glass of wine. But I figured I needed to slip into something a little bit more appropriate. How do I look? You like? This is an Egyptian belly dancing dress, man. They're like 20 bucks on eBay. I got them in a few different colors. Welcome to the Alvord desert, y'all. Okay, well, after dinner I had to take care of some work on my old laptop. Sorry to shatter the illusion, but it's not just a freewheeling lifestyle. There's a lot of work involved. There in my little lonely office on the prairie. But what I wanted to show you guys was, I don't know if you can see that light in the distance there, just beyond my car. That little light, that's the hot spring that I stayed at last night. So in my first video in the Alvord Desert series, when I was headed up here and my window got stuck down and I was really in a jam, and then I ended up at this hot spring on the edge of the world. Well, it might have seemed a little hyperbolic to you that I was calling it the hot spring at the end of the universe. But if you look at it right now, well, hey, that's what it kind of looks like. You know what I mean? Like there's this vast dry lake bed with just the random oddball camping out on it. But then it's just nothing, vast desolation. And then this tiny little outpost of civilization in the literal middle of nowhere. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys, or helps explain how just otherworldly that situation was to me. Ugh, that friggin' hot spring resort is amazing. But that being said, just camping out here by myself in the middle of this awesome dry lake bed is possibly even more amazing, because I'm able to get work done because of the 4G cell signal. I'm able to swan about in my Egyptian belly dancing robe. And, well, I'm able to be alone. Anyway, I can see the hour is getting late, the light's getting low, and the video is getting grainy. So I'm going to shut her down for tonight, but I'll fire her back up in the morning and show you what it looks like then. Good night. Whew. It's getting hot out here already. It was actually really nice last night. I was able to get under my blankets and everything. Stayed cool enough for all that. Slept very well, very cozy. And then, well, I woke up this morning about, well, kind of late, 7:30. And I did some work, editing on my laptop because I have signal here. But it's already 1 o'clock. Oh my gosh. And, well, it's starting to get real hot out here. Although, as soon as I got up to pack up and leave, I noticed it looks like there's another storm rolling in. So it's probably going to be like yesterday, where it's really hot and then the storm comes in and it cools off. And that's totally awesome. So I'm sorely tempted to spend another night. But realistically, I have a schedule that I got to stick to. I need to be a certain place at a certain time. And unfortunately, today's the day that I need to leave this magical Alvord desert. Something about this whole area really does seem like it has some kind of cool, almost magical quality. I mean, the vastness of the dry lake bed, the surreality of that bizarre little hot spring outpost, and then those gorgeous friggin' mountains with the streams and trees. Oh, and then even this crazy weather kind of adds to all of it, you know? I can definitely see why everybody was telling me I needed to come up here and check it out. It's an awesome place, and I'll definitely be back. But I have a feeling that if I don't actually leave soon, well, I might not have a choice. I might get stuck here. I guess I'm just a little bit gun shy about driving on wet playas. I might have alluded to this last night, but I actually got stuck in a dry lake bed myself one time. Story time. This was about 4 years ago, before I had a four-wheel drive vehicle. I had a two-wheel drive Ford Ranger. And back then, I was working as a freelance model in Vegas. And my business model was that for $500, I would pick you up at your hotel, the photographer, and then I would drive you around to 3 or 4 different beautiful desert locations, and then I would pose for nude photos, like artistic nude photos. So dry lake beds, there's a few dry lake beds around Vegas, and that was one of the locations I would use because, well, most photographers that were coming in from, out of state or out of the area, they wanted to shoot in iconic desert landscapes, like red rocks. So I would always take them to like a red rock location and like some kind of old ghost town type wooden building. So I would take them to this old mine, and then a dry lake bed. That's another iconic desert landscape that most of these guys would want to shoot at. Well, one time this guy hired me, this guy from Texas, and he was really a nice guy. He was really tall, like 6 foot, probably like 6'5". He was a tall, lanky Texan and a man of very few words. He just wasn't a talkative guy. And it can be kind of awkward. I go to the hotel and I pick up somebody that I've never met before, and now we're driving around for 8 hours together. Conversation can be kind of awkward at first, but usually, you kind of find your stride, and I can pretty much talk to anybody, so usually works out. And after about the first half hour, it's pretty comfortable. But with this guy, he was just a man of few words. He didn't like to talk, and I know, shocker, but I can actually really understand that. I like being alone and not talking for days at a time, actually. Although even when I'm alone, I do talk to myself. maybe I'm not quite as taciturn as this guy was. This guy was a man of few words. So I'd talk, try to engage him, and he just wasn't interested. So he just kind of sat there and watched the scenery go by, and it was fine. It was actually pretty pleasant for me. I just didn't have to talk, just drive. And we went to a Red Rock location, and he shot some photos that actually came out friggin' amazing. They're among my favorite photos ever taken of me. I'd post them here, but, you know, they're nudies. So, unfortunately, I can't put them on YouTube. Anyway, after the Red Rock stop, we were going to go to a dry lake bed for sunset. And then the third location that he wanted to shoot at was actually in downtown Vegas with all the neon lights. So it's kind of a different spin, which I was, okay, that's at least something different. You know, I did get a little old going to the same locations over and over again. So, hey, he wanted to try something new. That was cool. Okay, we'll do Red Rocks, dry lake bed at sunset, and then we'll go back into town and do some cityscape stuff. Obviously, it wouldn't be nude. I'd be wearing some kind of outfit. But okay, fine. So we did the Red Rocks, and then we drove over to the dry lake bed. Well, at the time of this photo shoot, I don't remember what month it was, but there had just been, it's probably like October-ish, September, October. There had just been a big monsoonal thunderstorm the previous week, I think. And, well, that lake bed did fill up like a lake in the middle. But it had been enough days of hot, sunny days that it had pretty much started to dry up. So you could see from a distance that it was darker colored, wet in the middle, but it had already dried out around the edges and was light colored and hard packed. So I just figured, okay, as long as I stay on the light colored patches, like I was saying last night, I'll be okay. So I did. I very carefully found a path out there, and it's kind of a rough road to get out to that lake bed, but we made it out there and found a nice flat dry spot. And he actually got the picture that he had in mind. He was one of those guys that had like a few specific shots in mind that he wanted to get. You know, some of these guys would hire me and just like, okay, pose, and just blast away and take thousands of photos. Not this guy. This guy had specific shots that he wanted to get and specific lighting techniques to get those shots. So he was pretty cool. I have a lot of respect for him as a photographer. Anyway, the trouble all started. So the sun was just getting ready to go down. He got the shots he needed, and we got in my truck. Okay, now we're going to go to the last place. We'll go downtown Vegas, get all the neon signs and stuff, and do some shots there. Well, in my haste to leave the dry lake bed, unfortunately, I don't know, I didn't follow the exact path back that I did out, and wouldn't you know it, I ended up bogged down in soft, wet lakebed mud. And you know how that stuff is. It's like concrete, man. Like, you just can't get out of it. So we did try. I had some firewood sticks in the back that I tried jamming under the tires to gain some traction. Unfortunately, oh my gosh, look at this. This is like a HABOOB or something that's moving in. Hold on. I gotta hold on the rest of the story. Look at this. I mean, isn't that what they call it when it's like one of those crazy desert dust storms? I better close the back of my car ASAP. I just cleaned all that dust out of it from my window being broken. Yikes, I better get in my car. Yikes, look at that. It's like one of those dust storms at Burning Man. Oh my gosh, I got in my car not a moment too soon. Holy cow, look at that. Some kind of crazy front moving in. Yikeroos. Huh, well anyways, I'm safe here in my car, so I guess I don't have to worry about it. But maybe I should start thinking about driving back over to the access road just in case. All right, well, while I drive, I'll finish telling my story real quick. So, where was I? Oh, yeah. I got bogged down in the mud. I was trying to jam sticks under the tires and all that, but it was really difficult to do because, well, where I ended up getting stuck, the passenger side, which is where the photographer was sitting, was like really deep, soft mud outside that door. And on my side, it was a little bit harder packed, so I could kind of get out and, mess around with sticks and such. I was wearing these cheesy little cowboy boots that I used to bring as like prop cowboy boots for photos. So they weren't like the best footwear, but well, I can actually feel my car moving because of this wind. It's crazy. Okay, I was gonna start driving. Anyway, holy moly. Wow, like the weather changed so drastically. Look, you can't see anything out the window hardly. I better hug the edge for sure because I might get lost. Actually, my friend here at the hot spring resort was telling me that he was out here one time when it was foggy. Okay, there was some kind of fog bank rolled in and he actually got completely turned around and lost in the fog because he couldn't see more than, I don't remember how many feet he said. He couldn't see very far in front of him. And so he tried to just hold the steering wheel straight and drive in a straight line thinking, okay, I'll hit one of the edges of the lake bed and I'll be able to find my way back. But I guess he was like slightly curved, so he just kept driving around in circles. Finally, he just decided the smart thing to do is stop the car and just wait till the fog cleared. And that was the only way he got back. So fortunately, this dust isn't that thick. I'll be able to find my way back. Anyway, back to my story. So the mud was too thick and soft on his side, so he couldn't even really get out. So there's me in my cheesy costume cowboy boots trying to get the car free. Well, I couldn't. It was stuck. So I got back in the truck. I'm like, okay, well, let me try calling AAA. Even though I know AAA won't come tow you if you're more than a certain distance from a paved road, and it's not a very far distance. I know, because, well, I've had to have that done too. Let me tell you something. Before I had four-wheel drive, I was always getting stuck. Anyway, I really didn't think I had any other option, though. I knew I was facing a pretty pricey tow bill, whatever company would come out there and tow me out, but just figured I didn't have a choice. Golly, yikes. It's like being on a little dinghy in a stormy sea, being tossed about. I can feel the whole car shaking. It was a dark and stormy afternoon, and I was just in the middle of a story, which I'm going to get back to now. Anyway, so there I was sitting in this pickup truck, which it was getting dark. Remember, we shot at sunset, so by now it was dark. None of these companies wanted to come tow me out. Meanwhile, this poor photographer is 6'5", okay, and it was a Ford Ranger small truck, so he's like jackknifed in his seat. It couldn't have been comfortable for him. He had to pee. He had to keep peeing because I guess he had a prostate problem. But he couldn't get out on his side because the mud was so deep and soft. So it was really embarrassing for him when he had to pee because he just had to open the door and like lean out, which I don't care. I'll pee in front of anyone just about any time. We all do it. What's the big deal? But it was embarrassing for him. And I just felt so bad. Like I got us into this dang jam. Oh, and you know, he was a quiet dude to begin with. So I don't know. I just felt like he was sitting there in silent reproach, but I think he was just a quiet guy to begin with. Anyway, I finally got a hold of a friend of mine who had a F350 and a tow strap, another photographer that I was friends with, and he was kind enough to agree to come out and help us get out. So we drove out from Vegas. It's about a 45-minute drive, but when he got there, you know, it's pitch black. He wasn't even sure. You know, in the dark, it was hard to see where the lake was dry and where it wasn't. So he really didn't feel comfortable driving his truck out there because, well, next thing you know, there'd be two trucks stuck, right? So he said, look, get in my truck. I'll give you guys a ride back to Vegas. And you can just wait a few days. The lake bed's already starting to dry up. It'll be dry in a few days. You can come back and get your truck then. Oh, here's the access road that I came down. Let me go back up here. I'll put back onto terra firma. Okay, I'm just going to park here at the edge of the lake bed like I'm at the drive-in and, well, watch this storm and finish my story. So yeah, my friend said that I should just leave my truck on the dry lake bed for a few days unattended, which I was like, oh gosh, yikes. You never know. People go out to that lake bed all the time and do target practice shooting. Like, I'm liable to get all my tires shot up, my windshield busted. Like, I really didn't feel comfortable doing that, but I really had no other choice. And fortunately, I was booked the next 2 full days. I think I had already been hired by a photographer who was bringing another model with him, and so he wanted to use his own car anyways because, well, Ford Ranger is a pretty tight squeeze for 2 models and a photographer. So we had already planned on taking his car. So for the next 2 full days, I was going to be working all day and not needing my truck. So in a weird way, it actually worked out okay. So my friend with the F350 he picked up me and the photographer, somehow got out in the mud and made it over to his truck, and he drove us back into Vegas. And man, I was so embarrassed. I just felt so bad about the whole thing because, well, obviously by now, neither one of us felt like shooting the neon light stuff downtown. And it was just awkward for me because in the back of my mind, I was like, oh man, this poor guy, he only got 2 out of 3 locations. Like, I guess I should prorate my fee, or I don't know, maybe I shouldn't charge him at all. I don't know. I always waited till the end of the shoot and just they would give me the money. But this guy was a class friggin' act and a true Texas gentleman because we dropped him off at his hotel downtown first and he paid me the full amount. And what's more, that following Christmas, he sent me a calendar with some of the pictures from the shoot and other places that he'd shot. Oh wait, maybe my pictures weren't in the calendar. Anyways, he sent me a calendar of all kind of cool pictures he had shot in Vegas. So apparently he wasn't resentful at all about what had happened. And well, after I sat and thought about it, I think it might have just been, well, one of the craziest adventures he'd ever had. So in a weird way, maybe he enjoyed it. And as for me, well, my photographer friend, after we dropped off the first photographer at his hotel, my friend brought me back to my house, and well, actually, we went out and I bought him dinner because I wanted to thank him. But then after that, I had to go straight home to bed because I had to get up early the next day for this other photo shoot, which I did. I got that photographer to come, hey, can you just come pick me up at my house? It's a long story. Normally, I would have driven to meet him, but so he was cool. He picked me up. Me, him, and the other model had 2 full, really good days of shooting. She was a cool model and he was a cool guy. We all enjoyed each other's company and shot all day for the next 2 days. But in the back of my mind, I was still worrying about my truck. Like, oh gosh, I sure hope nobody's shooting up my tires. Now, I guess it worked in my favor that the lake bed was still kind of soft and muddy because, well, not even the shooters were crazy enough to go out there. So, or so I hoped anyways. And so finally, at the end of this, so I shot all day the following day and then all day the day after that. And at the end of that second day, our route happened to take us back by the dry lake bed where my truck was. So I didn't want to impose on this second photographer, like, hey, can you drive me all the way out to where my truck is? Because it was a rough road, like I said. And I think he had a Camaro or a Trans Am or something like that. So yeah, he wouldn't have been able to make it out there. But there's like a Love's travel stop kind of near Apex Dry Lake Bed. So I asked him, hey, can you just drop me off at the Love's truck stop and then I'll get to my truck somehow? And at first he was like, oh, I don't want to leave you at a truck stop. But it was okay because I had another really good photographer friend that I was able to call. Like, hey, Randy, can you come pick me up at the Love's truck stop and drive me out to the dry lake bed so I can get my car out of the mud? I think he already knew the whole story. He was a pretty good friend of mine, Randy, still is. And he had a Jeep. He said, no problem. So well, I guess this would have been the second photographer dropped me off at the Love's truck stop. And then my third photographer friend, Randy, picked me up there, drove me out to the dry lake bed. There was my truck sitting there after 3 days, and it worked like a charm, man. I mean, nobody had shot it up. Everything was fine. The windows weren't broken. The mud had dried enough to where Randy, God bless him, he did all the digging for me. I didn't even have to dig it out myself. And it wasn't much digging, the mud was pretty dry, and drove her right on out of there. So it was a long, crazy story. Sorry about that. But because of all of that, ever since then, I've been super cautious about camping out or driving out on wet, dry lake beds. And well, you know what they say, once bitten, twice shy. Well, that certainly applies in my situation. Oh gosh, yikes. Man, it's nasty out here. Look at this. You can probably even hear the wind whistling. Maybe. Golly, and the temperature has dropped again, like it's probably like 20 degrees cooler than it was when I started vlogging, whatever that was, a half hour ago. I mean, I know the story I just told was long, but it wasn't that long. That just goes to show how nutty the weather is here. Remember last night, or yesterday evening, thunderstorm, lightning, rain. Then I had a beautiful evening on the lake bed. It was peaceful and calm all night, peaceful and calm all morning. Then it started to get hot. Now it's storm o'clock again. It really is like the ocean in a weird way. It's like the tide's coming in once a day. Wow, this place is amazing. Oh, yikes. I think it's starting to rain again. I guess I guess this is my cue to get out of here once and for all. I mean, I do have a pretty ambitious itinerary plan for today. And I decided that, well, if you watched this whole series of videos, you might remember on my way in, I was all optimistic to try that cheeseburger and shake at Field Station because it was said to be the best milkshake ever. And I did have it and I did enjoy it, but I wasn't really able to enjoy it because in the back of my mind, I was worrying about my window and all that. Well, now that I got my window fixed, I have to pass back through Field Station again anyways. Well, I haven't been able to weigh myself since I've been on this trip, but I've been very good about my calorie counting. And I had like a 1,400 calorie deficit yesterday. Not kidding. I burned 1,400 calories more than I ate yesterday. So I feel like, well, maybe I earned another burger and shake. Why not? Ah! I gotta get in my car and get out of here. Ah, this weather. All right, well, I'm unimaginative, so I'm gonna go ahead and get raspberry shake again and a cheeseburger, but this time I'll remember to ask for no mayo. Okay, I ordered my food. Now I just gotta hang out here in this storm and wait for it to be ready, and then, well, gosh, find some place to hunker down and eat it. Oh yeah. I feel like and sound like the Kool-Aid man, but oh my god, I'm friggin' starving. This has been a weekend to remember. I came in here on a Friday and I'm leaving on a Monday, but it feels like I've been here at least a month. And will I come back? Oh yeah.